All right. This is Big Glorious Dreaming. We're in season 4, and I want to welcome everyone to the Be Well with Dr. Michelle Greenwell podcast. And today it's my pleasure to be hosting the talented dream guru, Leonie Dawson. And she's coming to us from Australia early in the morning. And so I'm so grateful that you got up to be able to have this conversation. Thank you, Leonie.
Oh, Michelle, it's a joy to be here. Bless you. Thank you for having these conversations.
So, we're here today to just shed a little light on what it's like to be an entrepreneur working in the arts industry and to be able to really follow what the passions are. And Leonie has her own podcast, which is Leonie Dawson Refuses to Be Categorized. I love the title of that. And she describes her time as having a cup of tea with a friend. And when I read that, I was like, okay, I need to talk to you, Leonie, on the podcast because you're right up my alley with that. So if you're not familiar with Leonie's work, she's got imaginative, colorful, dreamy, big, dramatic art. That's what drew me to you. And that only begins to capture the essence of the character of who Leonie is. And her website boasts that she's a wildly creative introvert and has the ability to achieve so many of her dreams. And I was interested when I read introvert because I wouldn't have described you that way, but people say that about me as a performer as well. You're so out there all the time. And it's like, yeah, but I really am more of an introvert. But when we're doing our jobs, there we are. I wanted to share a couple of accomplishments that describe Leonie as well. So, CEO of a corporation that sold over 14 million Aussie dollars in products and services, and she enjoys working a 10-hour week, and I am so envious. She has a blog followed by over 100,000 people, and she authors dream building books and programs to support entrepreneurs and people to achieve their best dreams. And I have filled those books out and I have worked on them and gone back to them and followed some of the base ideas through many different aspects of my business. I wanted to share one testimonial that I was drawn to, which was a singer and songwriter. So that kind of spoke to me right there. Katie Rose said, "Thank you so much, Leonie, for your positivity and great vibes. It's amazing having a creative, artistic, ethical, philanthropic woman modeling what it is to make, manage, and manifest money. Your generosity, compassion, and your no BS attitude shines through all the videos, the calls, the colorful materials you've given us over these last few years. Thanks for your warm-heartedness and commitment to empower women to take command of their financial destiny." So I think everybody, you can feel the love. So Leonie, welcome to the show. It is a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, Michelle, what a welcome. That is just beautiful. Thank you so much. It's always nice, like, to remember who you are, right? Like, when you get into the busyness of everything, you're like, okay, I'll just keep doing stuff and, hope it all works out. And then when you have a moment of reflection, it's like, oh, what an absolute honor it is to be here on this planet and to get to love and be loved.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. And sometimes too, we forget, we put those testimonials on our websites or we follow through on a product, and then we go back and think about how we have impacted just that one life. But then what is the ripple effect that comes from
Mm,
that? And it's nice
mm,
to come back to that. So
mm.
yeah. Okay. So Leonie, you and I have talked about tea. And so do you want to tell us what your go-to tea is?
Sure. I mean, I drink vast amounts of herbal tea every day. I don't drink I don't drink caffeine. I don't drink coffee. Really, I've never drunk coffee. So I have like a limit. I have one Yorkshire tea in the morning, and that's like my caffeine limit. And then after that, it's just all the herbal tea. So my go-to is usually Celestial Seasonings, Sleepy Time tea. I like kind of the more calming ones. So chamomile and spearmint and um, peppermint. Those are, yeah, where I head to.
Yeah. And I was thinking about actually those aspects too when I was trying to pick the tea for what would I try to feature today. And so I came up with actually color because I was thinking more about who you are and what really drew me to you. And so I thought, well, when I look at this particular tea, it's the Year of the Green Dragon, is how I released it for 2024. And it's been repurposed into Nova Scotia Harvest because I want it to stay in the tea blends. I don't want it to just be the year of and then it disappears. But it
Mm.
has blueberry, apple, and maple. But then it also has sunflower, calendula petals. It has these bright blue, orange, yellow. And so when I look at it, it's like looking at confetti. Yeah, I thought that would appeal.
That is divine. Yes, you've got me. You've got me right there. Color, vibrancy, delicious.
So as I'm looking at what the tea blend brings to us, part of the parts about the Cape Breton Tea Company is that I really like to highlight not so much what a tea is good for, because a lot of people try to solve problems with the herb and then make that herb the responsibility of fixing everything. And so I really try to go to is the other aspects, the spiritual aspects of the herb. So it is a green tea and it does provide us with antioxidants, and those are lovely for building us up and really getting the oxygen into our system. But I wanted to highlight the apple today. So are apples big where you are?
No, I'm in a tropical climate, so not really.
Not really. Okay.
Yeah.
And the apples, when I went there, because here it would be an apple would be in your lunch, or be my grandson, he's so excited because being 3, he can eat the whole apple without having it cut up. And that's a big deal to be able to eat all the way
Whoa.
around the apple. But apples actually support generosity, abundance, harvesting our true desires, and gratitude. And so if I
Oh.
think about how do I want to embrace my day, that's kind of a nice way to sum it up. It's with an
Mm.
apple.
Mm. That's
I guess when
beautiful.
they said an apple a day, right, keeps the
Yeah.
doctor away, that might have been the case. And the second part I wanted to bring forward, and I know I've seen this in lots of your artwork, are sunflowers and the sunflower petals. And those are there, they're vibrant yellow, but they also promote joy and positivity. And I wanted to bring a little bit of that in as people are inspired today of how they might bring more vibrancy into their life and be inspired by the way we bring our conversation around today. So the last, I just want to read the affirmation that's on the package. So it says, reflect on the beauty of nature, for she shines a light on the sweetest gifts each season, embrace with joy. So, so with that, whatever you have to drink where you are, I've got mine, which turns out to be yellow, just
Mm.
from the way it comes together. And I'll say cheers. And in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, we say slanche.
Oh, slosh. Beautiful.
Hmm. All right. So I said a little bit earlier you had described yourself as an introvert, and
Mm.
everything that you do exudes extrovert. So I thought it might be fun to start with what what as you started with your business, how did the introvert in you hold you back from being able to do what you wanted to do?
Oh, I don't think it's ever really held me back. I think there's like a place for all of gods and goddesses creatures, and that it just it being an introvert, also being autistic, means that I really love and need a lot of quiet time at home, and that I want to like go deep into my own inner world and create and get fixated on new ideas and hyper focus and learn all of the things and build a business from that space. So I'm not somebody who's been like gone to a lot of conferences or traveled to masterminds or done a lot of in-person events or networking, that kind of stuff. It's not my vibe, and that's okay. I can really just embrace what gifts I do have and what I do want to create in this world. So it's a gift too.
Mm-hmm. hmm And I'm thinking about for a lot of people starting out in the business industry and they're trying to figure it out. And where do I
Mm,
go to ask the questions and how do I get myself involved? I appreciate what you've just said in that sometimes it's more important to go within and
mm,
also that you can do it from home and you can do it from a quieter space. You don't have to be out because one of the things is, be at all those meetings and talking to the different people and your sales pitch and all those beautiful pieces that go with it, but to really be able to sit and know who you are.
mm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, everything's possible and doable from that place. And thinking about like what lights you up, what you want to share with the world and focusing on those things instead. That's far more delicious and important, I think.
hmm hmm So I also was thinking about what brings you your greatest joy in your days. So if you are building your days in that same kind of idea, what do you like to do?
Mm. Like I've got like a fairly solid rhythm to my days. Um, and I've always, from the get-go of starting my business, I started my business, it's been 20 something years ago, and been sort of full time, as in no other jobs for 14 years. And it's fallen into a pattern, and I've really wanted to focus on family and to have my business be a side part of my life, just to fit in a little corner of my life. And that's not to say that I don't love it and am intensely excited by it and motivated by it. It's just that I've got other things in my life that I'm also excited by. So I have two daughters and my husband, so I love being there to, you know, just be as present as I can. And, I've woken up at 6:30 in the morning so that I can do these kinds of calls. But that means that I'm there when my kids do wake up and I can help them get ready for school, and then we can go off to school together. And then I spend time with my husband. We do errands and just play games and have a lovely time together and connect. And then I fit in a couple of hours of work um, around midday, and then we go to pick up the girls at school together. And then we spend the rest of the times in family time. And I'm never going to regret the amount of focus I've put in just being around my kids. Like it's just been um, you know, such a blessing to get to witness who they are. And they're such fun humans. And I want to say this as well, like, my kids are at an age where it's just so easy. Like they're just the easiest little beings. And it's not like a huge amount of active parenting. It's more just enjoyment. They're 14 and 10. I wouldn't, when they were, 3 and I think under the age of 7 and like it's exhausting. It's enormously exhausting. I'm never going to be like, oh, every single moment is pure joy. Like, no, I would go hide on the toilet for sure. It just happened to be in a really just like the spot where they're groovy and they're not like knocking stuff over all the time or crying or all those things. So
hmm
yeah, I feel really grateful for what is and for this season in life.
That's beautiful. I'm thinking about as people are listening and you put your work into your midday, how do you decide what is worthy of your attention and what needs to fall to the side? For all those
Mm,
yes people.
mm. So here's the thing, it's been a big process. Firstly, I read the 4 Hour Work Week when it first came out, and I just took it literally. I really took it literally. And I think there's some really important and good lessons in there, especially the one about Pareto's principle in terms of, 20% of the work you do creates 80% of your revenue. Um, And those kinds of outsized effects happen in all areas of your business, even like, 20% of your clients will create 80% of your headaches, or, 20% of the bugs in your software program will create 80% of like the issues. So those, being aware of those super producers of outcome and working out, if it's something that you want to um, you know, reduce the activities that don't produce revenue, that actually aren't important to the process. Um, they're not actually going to move your business forward in any discernible way. So a lot of the tasks just need to get murdered. I can't do all the things. And not if I want to have a good and big life outside of work. And I really just need to focus on the stuff that's actually important. So being strategic, having a look at what's working, what's not, and not being afraid to experiment and test and see what works. So those things really work.
Hmm. Hmm. I wanted to ask you some of the reflections over the last couple of weeks with different conversations I've had with people have been about the influences of our ancestors. So, in my case, I'm four generations entrepreneur. So then you go, well, I was kind of destined to go that route, perhaps,
Mm.
maybe not. But I was just curious for you, what came through from your history that you seem to have pulled forward.
Sure. For me, like sometimes it's like I just to be vulnerable, like it's difficult for me sometimes to do ancestor work because I'm estranged from most of my family, and I also have a significant family history of mental health issues. And um, so, you know, sometimes when I think of, like one of my grandparents, I wince and I'm like, please don't let me have inherited that much from that situation. Um, but um, I am grateful for the sheer amount of grit my ancestors have had. My ancestors, I'm six generations in a very small town in North Queensland. So, for whatever reason, both sides of my family emigrated um, from England and Denmark. Six generations ago to set up in a very small town in North Queensland, and it's not easy country. It's a very beautiful country, but it's tropical. It's hot. There's a vast quantity of snakes, very, very poisonous snakes. Um, and, it's a very kind of pioneer sort of life. And so I'm very um, in awe of their fortitude of setting up those new lives for themselves and for acclimating to a climate that's very different from where they came from. Um, and I think as well, the amount of love that so many of them had for the land as well, for that new homeland. One of my favorite ancestors is my great Aunt Lucy, and every single time we'd, drive her out of the town out to my parents' farm or whatever, she'd go, "Oh, those mountains, look how beautiful they are." And I mean, she passed away when she was 99. And, it just didn't stop that appreciation for the mountains and those big, beautiful kind of volcanic blue mountains. I'm so grateful that she loved them so much.
Hmm. Hmm. And it's so easy to forget because you've been in the surroundings for a long time
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
for those people that travel around the world to try to see what you get to see every day. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same here on Cape Breton Island too. And it's very reminiscent of Scotland, Ireland, England, that the same rolling hills and opportunity being close to the water. And
Mm.
I moved from prairie, so I didn't have water. I had Rocky Mountains and being next to the ocean. And I realized the ocean could be dynamic and every day is a different day at the ocean. I just
Mm.
assumed it was like the prairies where the the grains just blew in the wind and they looked the same every day, you know? So the ocean is not like that.
Mm. Very
Now, a
much
farmer
so.
out west might be saying, they're not the same every day. Oh my goodness. I wanted to ask you also about your kids and some of the, as you're talking about what kind of came through from the family, what kinds of things might you see for them or hope that they'll take with them as they've followed and seen how you've run your business?
I just want for my children to be who they are and to forge their own path in whatever format that looks like. Whether they learn anything from me or not, it's irrelevant. Like whether they reject or accept or if it becomes, part of their way of doing things. I don't really mind either way. What I want is for them to um get to experience themselves and live their own soul's purpose in whatever way that looks for them. And for me, I just want to keep remaining open to discovering who they are, not who I think they are, but who they really are, you know, because we
Hmm.
like definitely like form ideas of like, oh, this one's, the the quiet one or the sensitive one or the excitable one. And that's going to change over time and as they experience new parts of themselves. And so I just wish for whatever they wish for.
Hmm. Hmm. That's lovely because I think, well, as parents, we definitely have views, but we also sometimes lose that wonder as we worry about will they be able to do what they need to do and
Mm.
navigate the changing times that we have. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, and then the resiliency um, that we're able to provide for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In whatever way that looks for them. And then also like I think part of the joy of life is like is in the struggle sometimes and in the discovery, in the big awakening moments of like, oh, I want to develop this particular aspect of myself and going on that mad adventure. So I don't really wish for my kids to have a perfect life, just whatever is right for them and um whatever feels good to their soul and whatever big lessons they want to take on this life, like get it, amazing. Or if you want to have the chillest life ever, cool. I'm so behind that as well. Yeah, it's less about me and more about just trying to be open to what is.
Hmm. Hmm. Let's take a little turn and you've done philanthropy work, and I know that you like to give back to the different organizations that are dear to you. Do you want to talk a little bit about how that's been a part of your business and also the way that you live?
Sure. For me, like it excites me when I can create, abundance in and like be able to like that overflow of abundance, like redirect it to the places that I feel like it needs to go. And um, it gives me this extra sense of joy and purpose. And I also know that like the kind of philanthropic work that I feel really powered up about, like it gets excited about, like it sort of changes as I change. For me, over the last 4 or 5 years, my philanthropic work has become increasingly about um, trying to fight the climate crisis with um, helping to purchase land for wildlife and restoring natural habitat and things like that. And that was especially after reading Wilding by Isabella Tree, which is just one of the most stunning books I've ever read in my life, about somebody in England who decides to convert their farm back to sort of the rewilding experience and the miracles that happen because of that. So that really excited me in terms of like there's the small scale ecological change that can happen because of those, but also how big an impact that can have radiating out into the world. So that really, really excites me. For me, when stuff is happening around the world, um, as a person who cares deeply and wants to see change, I sort of see there's different ways that I can help. So firstly, I know that we're not biologically built to cope with 24/7 news from all around the planet. We don't, we really only have the capacity to know, 200 to 300 people. Um, and when we have 24/7 access to video and news and all the stuff that's going on, that very quickly overtakes our nervous system, and it leaves us feeling hopeless and completely overwhelmed and unsure of what to do. So I know that I need to really monitor um, my intake and recognize that um, I can't be there for every single situation in like just like I'm going to find out all the information constantly, constantly, and that's the only way that I can be a good citizen of the world. No, I need to have a regulated nervous system so that I can do what is in my responsibility. What's in my responsibility is to be a good parent and a good partner, a good friend, a good person in my local community, and to educate myself. And for me to educate myself, that means reading long form content through books, and it feels less like just screaming into the void when I can read like a longer book and have more of a thoughtful take on things, recognizing that it takes time to really learn about very difficult subjects, and that it's okay for me to take my time with it. Sometimes when I've learned enough about a certain topic, then I want to share some of that publicly, but that's going to take a period of time for me to be able to feel ready and confident to do that, and to feel like I've learned enough in order to be able to do that without causing any further harm. Um, and for me, the big thing is as well is if I can create excess abundance with my business, then I can redirect those funds into the areas that need it. And because of my business, that's, one of the more potent ways that I can create change personally. And so keeping a regulated nervous system so that I can keep running my business and keep creating that overflow of abundance. That's part of my activism work as well.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. That takes it you back to the introverted part again. Is
Mm,
really being thoughtful and thinking about what is the most impactful way that you can take action. Because a
yeah,
lot of times, you end up on lots of different committees and different board opportunities and then different initiatives in the community. And of course, the busy people get more. And
yeah,
and then pretty soon you're right. Then that your system is maxed out. And then what are you going to do with that? And where are you going to go? Yeah.
exactly. And also like, when you can create that, um, when you honor your own physical needs and biological needs and your brain's needs, that when opportunities do arise, then you can act, um, you know, with joy and excitement. Well, it's not excitement, but enthusiasm for the job that's being presented. So, for example, during the Syrian refugee crisis, um, I was sort of looking and just sitting with, okay, how can I be of service? What's being called of me now? And um, I heard of an organization called Carry the Future, and they were gathering um, baby carriers, like ergos and things like that, or baby Bjorns, to give to refugees so that they could keep their children and like their babies close to them during that process. And I knew here in Australia that a lot of um, mums, who had been doing baby wearing, they wanted to be a part of that, but of course it was prohibitive to even get them to Greece. And that was like, and I, as a baby wearing mama myself, I was like, I just want to help in that very, very tiny way. And so we became the Australian Collection Centre um, for all of the baby wearing things. And then once we had over a metric ton of them, so it was hundreds and hundreds, like people were just so beautiful and so generous. Um, Once we had over a metric ton, we were able to organize like a cargo ship to take it to Greece, and that felt like such a beautiful big blessing to do it like that. So wherever I can just like step up and be like, right, I'm being called to this. Let's do this. That feels like the good and the right fit. Me doom scrolling for 24 hours a day doesn't help me create good things in this world. So that's the path I'm going to take.
And I'm thinking about needing to know you needed a metric ton in order to do the
Yeah.
shipping part. And for those people listening, and even in my head, that's that thing where you go, I don't know how to do that. Like,
Mhm.
how do I even figure out how to do those things? But if
Mm.
you have that opportunity to sit with it and say, how can I make the impact? And then go, okay, now what deep digging do I need to do? Rather than lots of deep digging, trying to figure it out. And then you have, like you said, all this information, but where are you going to put it?
Yeah. Yeah. And um, keeping yourself in the space of service and love, and most importantly, a regulated nervous system.
I'm a Tai Chi person, and I talk about that all day in class. Is just to bring that balance and flow. My husband's always saying, "Oh, I'm so tired of that balance and flow stuff."
Mm. It's just, for me, when you get out of it and when I have a dysregulated nervous system, it's brutal. I've gone through burnout and depressive episodes, and when my general anxiety disorder is um, unregulated, and it's bloody brutal. Like there's like, getting to the point where you can barely function. It's no fun for me. I know how shit my mental health can get, how just, you know, bare bones, hitting rock bottom it can get. And not of any service to anyone. And I also like it's, really challenging for my family. And so the best gift that I can give myself and my children is to prioritize over and over again my own mental health, my own sanity, and my regulated nervous system. Nothing else
Mm-hmm.
is more important than
Mm-hmm.
keeping that on an even keel.
Mm-hmm. I'm hoping as people are listening, they think about what you've just said, because a lot of times, particularly moms, we give, give, give. Everybody else is first. We're at the end, and then grab that quick cup of coffee. But you and I both are not coffee drinkers, so caffeine's not that top priority list unless I really go to the chocolate. But otherwise, it's not typically there. So the functioning is not from that high jolting buzz, but really from that place of thinking about how do I navigate today so I'm the best. And then, as you've talked already about your girls, then how you are able to provide for them to find their best,
Mm.
um, rather
Yeah.
than, I think, as moms too, trying to make it the best for our kids, whether they receive it or not. But you're not really looking at the kind of person that you're giving to them, and then that
Yeah.
they've got to react to as well. Um, so that's
Yeah.
a whole other thing. Yeah.
And I want my kids to also see a mother at rest as well, a mother that really prioritizes this. And for me, um, in my ancestry, it was, the mothers sacrificed and sacrificed and sacrificed and didn't really look after themselves. And, the martyr sort of complex. And I get that that's absolutely what they felt like they needed to do in the, and that they didn't have other options. But I wanted to create other options. I wasn't interested in replicating that same energy again. So if I can give my kids the gift of like, oh, mom really looks after herself. And I love that my kids even now will be like, oh, mum, you seem a little bit overwhelmed. Why don't you go like have a lay down and read a book?
I love
If
it.
I get like a little bit like if I'm starting to do some cleaning and I start getting a bit persnickety, like, ah, children, blah, blah, blah. They're like, Mum, you seem overwhelmed. Why don't you just leave that? Just go have a lay down. And I do, and it's a great idea.
I love it. I love it. Oh, okay. If you could offer some words of encouragement to the listeners, what what are some favorite kinds of things? I mean, you offer a lot through the courses that you teach and the way that you deliver your material. What would be some of the things that would rise to the top for you?
That it's wasted time to think about whether you're good enough, whether you're worthy, whether you're lovable, whether you're too much, too weird, too intense, too whatever. Like what you could be doing instead of all that second guessing is actually like enjoying the gift that you've been given. You've been given like such an extraordinary gift to be exactly the person that you are in the body that you are in all of its wonky glory. Um, and instead of spending your time just thinking, oh, if I could just be better,
Hmm.
then I would be worthy. You can just give up that discussion and really just enjoy the heck out of what you already are and go, oh, what an absolute gift this is. I often talk about like the zebra because the zebra is not out there going, if I just had this, if this stripe was just a little bit different, then I would be good, then I would be worthy. The zebra is out there going like, I'm a zebra. Watch me go. I'm going to eat this grass in the sunshine. I'm going to love this uh, experience of life. And that is it. It doesn't need to spend its time overthinking it. It can just enjoy. When I was a teenager, maybe 14, and trying to work out this whole social situation, and I was at a school that was definitely like this very clear divide of like the cool kids and all the others. And maybe every high school is like that. But it seemed very, very clear to me. Um, and I was like, right, well, I could spend all my life, all my years, all my time trying to work out how to be cool and do that. But even when I look at the people who are the coolest people in school, they don't seem particularly happy. They seem a little bit stressed, a little bit worried, like a little bit like, oh God, if people really find out who I am, like yikes. Like the throne could be taken from them at any time because it wasn't, they weren't the coolest people because like, that's their authentic self. It's just they happen to have a mirage that other people designated as cool at the time.
Hmm.
So I was like, right, well, even the people who are the coolest of the cool have already won the game. They're actually not that happy. And also, I don't think I'm going to do a very good job of being a cool person. Like, I don't think I have that capacity anyway. So, what I could do instead is just enjoy what I am and be myself in all of its weirdnesses and oddities. And I get that a lot of people aren't going to like that. But it doesn't really matter because I'll be having fun. And if I can be my own best friend, then the rest of life is a cinch. Like it's a joy when you get to spend every waking moment with your own best friend. Like, what a treat. Yes, sign me. So that was the decision I made. I was like, right, I'm no longer interested in going and trying to be the cool person. What I am interested in is being all of myself and enjoying that experience, being my own best friend. And if somebody else loves that, great for them. Like, good for them. They've got great taste in people. But it's not really my interest.
Mhm.
Um, my interest is my relationship with myself and enjoying this experience of life. And I did find people who um, loved me because they had good taste, obviously. Um, and now so many people love me. It's like I have to, hit people back with a stick. I've got too many friends in my friendship line.
Such a problem.
I know it's so difficult. I actually don't have enough time for all the people who want to be friends with me. But they're all amazing people, and we would have such incredible times if I wasn't such a raging introvert who didn't leave the house.
Oh, I love it. I'm thinking about the people who they're looking for their person, right? And what you've just given them is you don't need to look for your person because your person's already there. Lovely to have other people, but your person is there. Yeah.
Yeah. And how exciting is that? How good is that? We can have built-in like soulmate, built-in best friend. Like you get to have adventures for the rest of time together. What a treat.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Um, is there anything that we didn't cover in our conversation that you would like to share based on some of the ways that the conversation has weaved today?
Hmm. For me, like mental illness and burnout and hard times have been just as much a part of life as the good parts. And I've I now like really talk about those things publicly. Also going through like postnatal depression and anxiety, going through chronic illness. I share about them publicly because I'm a Scorpio and I don't understand what taboo topics are. I just think taboo, let's discuss. Like, let's talk more about those things. The sex, the death, the money, I'm all in. And realizing that mental illness and hard times are one of those taboos of, that a lot of people don't speak about. And I was like, no, I'm all in. I want people to know that even if you are going through a really, really brutal, difficult time right now, you are still loved and you are still holy and you are still worthy. And it's not a reflection of you um, that you're going through a difficult thing. It's actually just life happening to you. And we
Mhm.
can't prevent life from lifing in all of its fullness. That's part of the journey. As much as that sucks sometimes, just completely brutally. And when we go through those difficult times, we have the opportunity to decide how it's going to craft us. For me, like going through some really difficult times, um, I realized like, oh, I'm actually becoming more jaded and more cynical because of these hard times. And it's not something that I wanted to be. And so I had to think more about like, okay, how do I want these experiences to craft me? And this is where I think of my three wise elders, including my great aunt Lucy and my grandmother, who were such beacons of love and compassion. And they had been through the absolute ringer of life. They'd gone through wars and they had lost husbands and children and grandchildren and been destitute and lost parents and had mental breakdowns and had to have illegal abortions because I just couldn't afford one more child, just all of the brutalness of life thrown their way. And it didn't make them harder. I saw in other members of my family where it made them harder and more rigid and more uncaring. And um, that wasn't pleasant to see. But for those three women, they let it soften them. It's like being a rock in a riverbed and the river just tumbling you over so many times that it makes you softer and it rubs off all your hard edges and makes the skin of you become more polished and glowing and luminous from the inside out. It made them lovelier and it made them more compassionate and it made them more accepting of all that life is. And they really had mastered the art of witnessing beauty all around them and loving every person who came in contact with them and meeting things with grace. And so that's my model of how I want the hard things to model me. I want to become softer and lovelier. I want it to rub off the hard parts of me. I want it to widen me and deepen me so that I can hold all that is.
Wow, that is beautiful.
Mm.
As you're thinking about, uh, just thinking, I just spent the last week with people from around the world working on unwinding trauma
Mm.
and how we get wrapped up in our trauma or our story or who we become because of that. And you've just so eloquently placed it with the softness and taking the rough edges off. And where does that take you? What jewels inside because of those experiences that you're able to overcome and you're able to move forward.
Mm.
It's really beautiful. But I love too the reflection of of those who have gone before and had some incredible experiences, and what allowed them to move forward and to be the grandparent or the great aunt that we could love and adore. And we don't know all of those stories at that time, and we just love them because of who they are at the moment that they're with us,
Mm.
and they tell us we're special. And
Mm.
it's such a beautiful relationship to have.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you for that.
I'm so lucky. What an absolute blessing. And I love that I get to share the legacy of them as well.
Mhm.
Get to share their story beyond the small little town that they lived because they were icons in their little town. Everyone knows Lucy and Marion and Nan because they were just the loveliest and um, they spread joy wherever they went. So um, that town's got maybe 4,000 people in it from that area, and to share their light a little bit further is a real joy.
Mhm. Mhm. My great grandparents had a photograph of them with their dog and this long row of grapevines. And they had planted, hoping that they were going to be able to harvest grapes as one of their crops, only to discover that that wasn't going to be the crop that what do they call it? Where they took all the fruit to and where all the purchasing was done. And so their grapes were rejected. And you know how long it takes to grow those grapevines. And so I've thought about that because I now have grapevines in my backyard because I like them and I enjoy what they can do, and harvesting the little bit of grape that comes off of it. And I think about how hard that was to make those kinds of decisions and pull it together and where that goes. But then I'm thinking now those generations have gone by, and what that means to me when I think about they overcame that hardship. They found that next crop that was going to be the crop that everybody wanted. The apples, that's what they ended up with, oddly enough. No, not oddly enough. I know the tea chooses where it wants to be and where it wants to be highlighted, but it certainly does um, open our eyes, open our eyes to
Mm.
how different we can make things. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially in times like this, like I think a lot of people are experiencing like um, the shift in the economy and hard times and things like that. And um, and I always try and remind myself, like, oh, this is nothing new. Feast and famine, this is part of that cycle. And we have been going through this since time immemorial. And
Mhm.
we as humans are so good at adapting and being innovative in those times. And so I think of my three wise elders and the experiences they went through. And I'm like, it's okay. We're going to be okay. We're going to work this out because that's what we do, and that's what we've always done throughout history. Humans are remarkably innovative and creative in the ways that we deal through those cycles of feast and famine.
Mhm. Mhm. I know we're just about to the top of the hour, and I wanted to ask, what is your favorite movement activity? Because I always like to finish off the podcast with getting people, if they've been sitting and listening, to get them up and thinking about how they could go move and really take what we've said, kind of run it through the system, and then see what it means for everybody. What's your
Mm.
go-to?
So for me, I have hypermobility, so that means my bones dislocate a little bit too easily, and that's where Pilates has been just a real lifesaver for me. And I also have a weekly tradition, which is such a joy and a blessing for me. So usually I don't really enjoy exercise. It's just never been something that excites me. But I tie my weekly Pilates session to after I have my weekly Pilates session, I go to the bookstore and cafe that's just next door, and I go look through all the books, and then I have tea and cake for an hour after my Pilates session. And it's actually the highlight of my week now. And so by pairing those things together, it feels like one activity, and I don't go and have tea and cake without the Pilates first. And so it actually, like, Pilates is something that I really love and adore now. So James Clear talks about habit stacking, where if there's one activity that you don't really love doing, try and pair it with one that you do, and
Mhm.
it becomes that much more enjoyable. So that's
Mhm.
my hack, tea and cake.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to say that for mine, I would just dancing from my heart. And I was standing on a rock next to the ocean last week, broadcasting live, and a rogue wave hit me. So I was doing that, and I was thinking about that's the dance of life, right? And then being kind of hit with nature and how nature pulls us in. And so I just thought I would invite people as they're thinking about how they can stack some of those beautiful habits to take dance and some music that you really love and then let it come from the heart. Let it pull out from you. And if that means putting your feet in the grass and connecting to nature, or it means you got a space in the bedroom that you can close the door and be by yourself and just dance, then and bring that forward. So,
It's
oh,
beautiful.
thank you so much, Leonie. It's been lovely to connect with you and have this time and get to know you a little bit better. I so appreciate
Oh,
your words.
Michelle, this has been a joy. Thank you for being you, and thank you for sharing your luminous gifts with the world. And it's what a blessing.
Awesome. So I'll give you one more toast before we go. And I wish you all the best as this coming year unfolds for you. And I know we're
Oh,
halfway through the year of the green dragon, but it is the one for prosperity and abundance. And so I wish you that as you share that with all of your audience and the people you have.
oh, Michelle, and to you too.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
So as we close for today, I just want you to think about the words that you've heard. Take a little bit of time to sift in all of the wise wisdom that has been shared with us, and the way that you can maybe look at some of the situations in your life and how you're moving forward. Thank you for listening to Be Well with Dr. Michelle Greenwell and Leonie. Thank you so much today.
Oh, blessings. Thank you, Michelle.